GatorSports.com.
All right, welcome to our latest Hoopscast. Pat Dooley and Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. They're going to talk a little bit about the South Carolina disaster that it was, where Florida committed 20 turnovers, missed, what was it, 13 free throws, whatever
13
it was.
free throws, yeah.
And loses to South Carolina in a game they controlled throughout, but they couldn't pull away because they made boneheaded plays all night.
Yeah, really, the turnovers really hurt them in the first half, and then obviously the missed free throws, both in the first half and the second half. I mean, they came in with a pretty good game plan to attack the basket.
Yeah.
They had the size advantage on the boards. I thought they were really aggressive at the rim, throughout the whole game. But when you can't cash in at the free throw line and, when you make careless mistakes, I mean, they shot 56%. They had a lot of high percentage shots, but only 50 shots throughout the whole game because you threw away so many possessions with the missed turnovers, with the turnovers.
Yeah, I thought one of the key moments was when Walker got fouled in the first half on a three-pointer and only makes 1 of 3. You got a chance to pull away, start to expand the lead, and don't really do it. And of course, the Dan Warner, I just don't know what to say anymore about it. I mean, 2 air balls and not even close to the rim. More turnovers. It's gotten to a point where he's really hurting the team.
Yeah, and 5 fouls too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he had to use some of them up, obviously. But yeah, it's really getting rough. But what other front court options do you really have? Eric Murphy saw a little bit more playing time, but other than that, there isn't really much on the bench to go with. So I think you're just going to kind of have to sink and swim with what you have right now, and that's Dan Werner. And really, you could see though it's getting into his head. There was a point in the second half too, where he had the ball in the middle lane. All he had to do was a little 8-foot turnaround, and he was afraid to do it. Instead, he forced a bad pass. That was the turnover instead of taking the shot. So it's really gotten mental with him, and I don't know if he's going to ever be able to recover.
No, and I even was on my Twitter page and I tweeted that I've never seen a more timid basketball player, and that was in the first half. He just went out there. He just looks like he doesn't want to be there, and we'll see if he can recover. But I think, I've been on the record with this, said it on my radio show. I've got a bet with Arnold in there. I think Florida's done. I see a team that mentally is drained and that maybe physically is drained because Walker, Boynton, those guys have had to put in so many minutes. I think they have to go minimum 4 and 3 the rest of the way to get in, and I just don't see them doing it.
Yeah, well, I think when you talk about the minutes, especially in the backcourt, I think it's probably going to affect Irving, maybe even a little bit more than Boynton. I think Boynton has a certain amount of stamina to him. He's just missing shots. I mean, that's just, the bottom line is it's just his shooting mechanics are not very good right now. But with Irving, I think because of the size, and this is really where, last spring, the inability of getting that backup point guard, a guy like an Eric Bledsoe, and then you bring in someone like Rod Tishman who's just not ready to play at this level. I mean, they had to use Kyle McClanahan. They used a walk-on, in the first half. He had a bucket. He actually did some good things. But
he was less of a liability than Dan Werner.
But what does that tell you when you go out and you get a scholarship guard that they don't even refer to as a scholarship guard anymore? And that's been the really problem, is just not having that reliable backup point guard that could alleviate some pressure.
Well, like I said, I think they're going to the NIT again. I just don't see it in this team. I think it's nothing against them. I'm not trying to be negative, but I saw some mentally fatigued players. And, we'll see if they're able to turn it around. Certainly the game against Xavier is another opportunity, Kevin, to get a quality win. I mean, Xavier's kind of stumbled a little bit here lately, but they're in the top 30, I think, still in RPI.
Yeah, 27 RPI.
Yeah, so that allows them a chance. Okay, quality win. It's at home. You'd rather win one of those on the road. But we'll see Saturday at 6 o'clock whether the Gators are as mentally drained as I think they are. And
they're going to have a really tough time with Jordan Crawford, former Indiana guy, the guy that, of course, infamously dunked on LeBron James, and they hid the video last year.
Right.
He's tremendous talent at the 2-guard spot. But of course, Florida's seen guys like Devin Downey, they've seen John Wall, but this guy can really light it up. He's averaging about 19 a game. It's going to be a very tough defensive assignment for Kenny Boynton when they play man-on-man, and I'm sure they'll throw some zone into and probably try to do some things to alleviate. And they're also pretty tough up front as well. Jason Love is a big, strong center. He's 265. So they're gonna have their hands full, no question.
Well, I kind of joked with Arnold earlier. I said, I wasted 17 good column inches on Vernon Macklin the other day because I thought he was turning the corner, and then he went soft again against South Carolina. We'll see if he steps it up at home.
Yeah, and he had the 2 bobbles early. I think that really kind of took him out of his game. And, I asked Billy about that after the game, and Billy kind of said, well, he mentioned, when his Vernon had a game like that in his life, and maybe that this is a learning experience, you know, the maturity of handling that kind of a game. But you know, like you said, instead of building on it, he went in the other direction. I thought it was a little frustrated in the second half, not getting much playing time, but he was not mentally into the game at all.
No.
I mean, it was justified not playing him in the second half.
And that's the thing that's really disturbing, Kevin, is some of the players were telling you after the game that they didn't come out focused, and you're like, why wouldn't you? This is it. This is February. This is when you either go to the NCAA tournament or don't. But again, we're talking about college kids, and these things tend to happen.
Yeah, and you know, on the road, I mean, you know, let's not forget. I mean, this South Carolina team did beat Kentucky at home. I mean, they are a decent home team.
But they didn't play that well that night.
You know,
I didn't think they played a great game. I thought they were saying, here, Florida, take the game, take the game, take the game, and Florida just wouldn't do it.
And Devin Downey obviously was not at 100% too. I mean, you know, you caught Downey on a night where he was a little bit hobbled. But, you know, a guy like Brandis Raley-Ross steps up. He scores a career-high 20. You know, he gets hot from three-point range. You know, that's something you certainly don't expect, especially when you're playing zone defense. You kind of just let him shoot. He has the game of his life, but, you know, hey, you know, he's a senior. A guy like Dan Werner, a senior, has to step up, or someone else has to step up and deliver for Florida, and they didn't do it.
I wouldn't count on Werner. Parsons, though, I think is playing his best basketball. Alex Tyus is playing well. They just got to get, you know, it's you know, they keep talking about a different guy stepping up. Well, this was a night they didn't step up. We'll see if they do against Xavier and Kevin as they come down here. This stretch of 7 games. There's, you know, Auburn here is about the only one where you kind of pencil in. You say that's a win. The rest of them are all losable games, and they're winnable games as well.
Sure, yeah.
Except at Kentucky.
I think at Kentucky will be very difficult, but, you know, I think if you kind of hold serve at home, then you finish 4-3, and if you can steal one on the road, either you know, Ole Miss or Georgia, which, you know, has played very tough at home. They've already beaten Vanderbilt and Tennessee at home. I mean, that's not a gimme by any stretch either. But if you can squeak by one of them, you know, and hold serve at home, then maybe you're talking about 5-2 down the stretch you're getting in. But certainly, you know, we've seen the last 2 years with this team in late February kind of fade down the stretch. So there's nothing really with this group that tells you yet, if you go on prior history, that they're going to be able to rally and do it. I mean, they have to go out and prove it on the court.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go get my media guide out and kind of look at Billy's teams in February. I don't think it's going to be pleasant. You know, they seem to struggle. And I don't know if that's because he pushes them hard. Maybe he's had trouble getting depth. But, you know, the funny thing is, ironically enough, the 2000 team's going to be on here Saturday night. That was the deepest team he ever had. Yeah. His second team could have been a Sweet 16 Final Four team. I mean, he was bringing Matt Bonner and Brett Nelson and guys like that off the bench. So I'm sure he'll pine for those days as he's watching that video. Yeah, you know, it would be nice to have like a 9 or 10 man rotation, but it just didn't work out this way this season with KG being hurt and really with, you know, a fourth guard not materializing, you know. And I thought Ray Shipman did some okay things, but then again, you know what I mean, he gets a steal and he, you know, draws the charge. You know, there have been some consistency issues with him throughout the whole season. Well, if you have a lineup out there and McClanahan, Werner, and Shipman, or any combination of those guys around there, you've limited your offensive options, and that's part of their problem. Yeah, no question. We'll see if they can recover against Xavier, and we'll come back and tell you about that game, as well as previewing next week's game with Auburn. Yeah, Auburn on Thursday night. Thursday night, yeah. So, hey, that was pretty good, wasn't it? Yep. And we'll, by the way, don't forget, I'm going to inform you, and then don't forget, that I'm going to be doing a special NCAA Pat Dooley TV show. So keep an eye out for that. We're still working together on that, trying to work on some guests. Until next time, Kevin Brockway, Pat Dooley, the Gainesville Sun, so long from the Sunshine State.